Hi everyone, I'm Bubbles from Susan's family. Today I'll teach you how to make the Meadow Mosaic Patchwork Blanket. This blanket is made up of motifs, sewing motifs together, lace trim, and a lining. Start by knitting the motifs. After knitting, sew the motifs together following the diagram in sequence. Then knit the lace trim. Finally, sew on the lining. Let's start by learning how to knit the motifs. There are 5 different types of motifs in total. Let's begin with learning how to knit motif 1. Use the cable cast-on method. Then knit back and forth along the foundation chain. The stitch techniques used include purl stitches, knit stitches, 2/2 LC and 2/2 RC. Now, let's show. Take out the corresponding yarn. Here I use yarn randomly. For specific yarn color schemes and hook sizes, please refer to the detail page of our product or the paper instructions. Let's start with casting on. First, make a slip knot. Begin by leaving a small tail end. This makes it convenient to weave in the end later. Place it onto the knitting needle. Tighten it slightly. This is the first stitch. Here we use the cable cast-on method. To cast on, this is the second stitch. Then insert into between the 2 stitches and pull the yarn through. This is the third stitch. Continue with this process. Keep casting on until you reach the required number of stitches. After casting on the corresponding number of stitches, the casting on is now complete. Next, let's work on the first row. Start with 2 purl stitches. Then knit 4 stitches. Purl 1 stitch next. 4 knit stitches again. Continue following the pattern chart sequence below. To finish this row, after you finish, the first row is complete. Consider this side of the row as the right side of the piece. It's the side where the tail of the cast-on yarn is on the left side. Now let's work on the second row. First, turn your work. We will work this row on the wrong side. Refer to the chart. Start with 2 purl stitches. Since we're working on the wrong side, the stitch techniques need to be reversed. That means you'll work 2 knit stitches. Next, the chart shows 4 knit stitches. But since we're reversing it, you'll work 4 purl stitches. Then continue following the stitch pattern order on the chart to finish this row. After you're done, the second row is complete. Now continue referring to the stitch sequence on the chart, and work the third and fourth rows as well. Remember to reverse the stitch techniques when working on the wrong side. After you're done, move on to work the fifth row. Start with 2 purl stitches. Then work 1 2/2 RC. Use the right needle to slip 4 edge stitches. Then bring the left needle from behind, and insert it into the first 2 stitches in front. Next, remove the right needle. Insert it from the front through the 2 slipped stitches on the left side, and transfer them back onto the left needle. After swapping, you can see that the 2 stitches on the left will be on top. Then work these 4 stitches as knit stitches sequentially. That completes 1 2/2 RC. Next, work 1 purl stitch. Then move down to work a 2/2 LC. Slip 4 edge stitches with the right needle. Bring the left needle in front, and insert it into the first 2 stitches. Remove the right needle. Then insert it from behind through these 2 slipped stitches on the left side, then place them back onto the left needle. After swapping, you can see that the 2 stitches on the right are now on top. Then work these 4 stitches as knit stitches sequentially. That completes 1 2/2 LC. Next, continue referring to the pattern chart. Work across this row. Once done, the 5th row is completed. Below, please continue following the chart. Complete all required rows for motif 1. All the stitch techniques used have been demonstrated before. You just need to refer to the pattern and knit. After completing half of it, check the dimension with the diagram. If there's too much difference, you can adjust your tension, or switch the needle size to continue knitting. Once everything is finished, proceed to bind off the stitches. Here, I'll demonstrate with a small sample. We're going to knit, purl, and bind off stitches. Start by knitting 2 stitches. Pick up the previous stitch and place it over the next one. That's how you bind off 1 stitch. Continue by knitting another stitch. Pick up the previous stitch and place it over the next one again. Repeat this process. Keep going until all the loops on the needle are bound off. After finishing, leave a yarn tail and fasten off. Hide the yarn tail along the texture on the wrong side. That concludes Motif 1. Next, everyone should finish knitting Motif 1, with all the required color schemes and quantities. Now that we've finished Motif 1, let's move on to learning how to knit Motif 2. We'll also use the method of knitting while casting on. After casting on, knit back and forth. The new stitch technique used here is K2 tog, DC3-in-1, SPO. K1 TBL stitch, LLI and RLI. Now, let's show, refer to the chart, start with the corresponding number of stitches. I've already cast on here, then work row 1. Refer to the chart, knit until right before the K1 TBL stitch. After completing it, knit 1 K1 TBL stitch. Insert the right needle into the back loop of the yarn. Knit 1 knit stitch. The K1 TBL stitch is done. Continue following the stitch pattern on the chart. Finish this row. Once done, the first row will be complete. Now everyone, refer to the pattern chart. Complete the second row as well. Now let's work on the third row. Start by knitting 2 knit stitches. Then 3 purl stitches. Next, knit 1 K2 tog. Move the right needle from left to right, and insert both loops at the same time. Knit 1 knit stitch. That completes the K2 tog. Then knit 1 DC3-in-1. Start with 1 knit stitch. Do not release the loop. Insert the right needle into the yarn behind. Then knit another knit stitch. Next, insert the yarn from the front and knit 1 stitch. Release the loop. That completes the DC3-in-1. Now knit 1 SPO. Start by slipping 1 stitch as if to knit. Slip the first stitch on the left side, then knit 1 stitch. Next, pick up the unworked stitch. Pass it over the stitch on the left and slip it off. That completes the SPO. Now everyone, continue referring to the pattern chart for the stitch sequence. Finish this row. After completing it, the third row is done. Below, everyone refer to the diagram. Keep going until you finish the 12th row. Next, start working on the 13th row. Begin with 1 knit stitch. Then work a LLI. Knit 1 stitch. Then locate the second chain from the bottom of the needle. Move the left needle from left to right. Pick up the strand on the left side of the chain. Then knit 1 stitch. That completes the LLI. Then continue referring to the pattern chart. Keep knitting until you reach the point before the RLI. After completing that section, start the RLI. Insert the right needle into the strand on the right side of the chain below the left needle. Knit 1 stitch. Continue inserting through the same loop. Knit 1 more stitch. That completes the RLI. Finally, knit 1 last stitch. This completes row 13. Next, everyone refer to the pattern chart. Finish knitting the remaining rows. Similarly, after knitting halfway through, check the dimensions against the chart. After everything is completed, finish with knit stitches and bind off. The method is the same as for motif 1. That concludes motif 2. Moving on, everyone can now work on motif 2 independently. Once all the required color combinations and quantities are knitted. That concludes motif 2. Next, let's learn about motif 3. It also uses the method of knitting while casting on stitches. After completing the cast on, knit back and forth in rows. Several knit stitches will be applicated, and they are all marked on the chart. I won't go through each one individually. Now, let's show. Refer to the chart. Start by casting on the corresponding number of stitches. I've already cast on here. Now let's knit row 1. Begin with 2 purl stitches. Then knit a 1/1 LPT. Slip the next 2 stitches on the left side first. Then place the left needle in front. Insert it into the first loop, and remove the needle. Insert the right needle into the left loop from behind. And bring it back onto the left needle. Then knit 1 purl stitch first. Followed by a twisted stitch. That completes the 1/1 LPT. Next, knit 2 more purl stitches. Then work a 1/1 RPT. Slip the next 3 stitches on the left side first. Then place the left needle behind. And pick up the first stitch. Remove the right needle. Then insert it from the front into the next 2 stitches on the left. Bring them back onto the left needle. Knit 2 knit stitches first. And then 1 purl stitch. That completes the 1/1 RPT. Next, work a 1/1 LPT. Slip the next 3 stitches on the left side first. Then insert the left needle from the front into the next 2 loops. Remove the right needle. Insert the needle from the back into the loop on the left. And bring it back onto the left needle. Purl 1 stitch first. Then knit 2 stitches. That completes the 1/1 LPT. Next, work 2 purl stitches. Followed by a 1/1 RPT. Swap the positions of these 2 stitches on the left side first. Then knit 1 twisted stitch. Followed by 1 purl stitch. This completes the 1/1 RPT. Next, refer to the pattern chart. Keep knitting until you reach the 1/1 RPT. After finishing, work this stitch next. Swap the positions of these 2 stitches on the left side first. Then knit 1 stitch first. Followed by 1 purl stitch. That completes the 1/1 RPT. Next, knit 1 K1 TBL stitch. Continue with a 1/1 LPT. First, switch the positions of these 2 stitches. Purl 1 stitch first. Then knit 1 stitch. That completes the 1/1 LPT. Finally, purl 4 more stitches. This completes the first row. Now let's work on the second row. Refer to the pattern chart, knit until you reach the K1 TBL stitch. Then work the K1 TBL stitch next. Note, since you're working it on the wrong side, you need to purl the PTBL stitch. Insert the right needle into the yarn at the back and purl the stitch. That completes the PTBL stitch. Continue following the chart for the stitch pattern sequence, and finish this row. Once done, the second row is complete. Next, everyone refer to the diagram, and complete the third row as well. There are no new stitch techniques used. Now let's move on to the fourth row. Refer to the chart, and keep working until you reach the slip stitch. When you arrive at the corresponding position, Remember that you're still working it on the wrong side, so you'll need to work the opposite stitch of what's shown on the diagram. That means purling 2 stitches and slipping 1 stitch in purlwise. Using the purl stitch method, slip these 2 stitches on the left side. The 2 slip stitches are now done. Next, continue to refer to the pattern chart, and finish the rest of this row. Once you're done, the 4th row will be completed. Now let's move on to the 5th row. Start with 4 purl stitches. Then work a 2/1 RBC. Begin by crossing the 3 stitches on the left side into position. Knit the first 2 stitches. Then work the cable stitch. That completes the 2/1 RBC. Next, work 4 purl stitches. Then do a 1/2 LBC. Start by moving the 3 stitches on the left side into position. Then work the cable stitch first, followed by 2 knit stitches. That completes the 1/2 LBC. Then continue with 3 purl stitches in sequence. One K1 TBL stitch and 2 purl stitches. Next, work a 1/2 RC. Start by rearranging the 3 stitches into position. Then knit 3 stitches in sequence. That completes the 1/2 RC. Next, work a 2/1 LC. Begin by repositioning the 3 stitches on the left side. Then knit 3 stitches. That completes the 2/1 LC. Continue referring to the pattern chart. Finish knitting this row. After completing it, the 5th row is done. Now everyone refer to the pattern chart. Keep going until you finish the 10th row. All the stitch techniques used have been demonstrated before. Next, let's work on the 11th row. Start with 2 purl stitches. Then 2 knit stitches. Follow with 4 purl stitches. Then work a 1/1 LT. Begin by swapping the positions of these 2 stitches on the left side. Work both stitches as twisted stitches. That completes the 1/1 LT. Refer to the diagram and finish this row. This completes the 11th row. Next, everyone refer to the pattern chart. Finish knitting the remaining rows. As before, halfway through, check the dimensions against the chart. After everything is completed, finish with knit stitches and bind off. That concludes motif 3. Next, everyone knit all the required color schemes for motif 3. Make sure to complete the necessary quantities for each color scheme. That concludes motif 3. Now let's move on to motif 4. Start by casting on and referring to the chart. Once the cast on is done, knit back and forth as indicated. The new stitches used here include yo stitches and s-tukpo. Now, let's show everyone. Refer to the diagram first. Make sure to knit up to row 2 after casting on. I've already completed this part here. Now let's move on to row 3. Start with 4 knit stitches. Then work a s-po. Next, do a yo stitch. Bring the yarn from front to back and place it onto the right hand needle. The yo stitch is now complete. Knit 1 more stitch. Then work another suspended stitch. Then work 1k2 tog. Continue following the chart to finish this row. Once done, row 3 is now complete. Let's move on to row 4. Start by purling the stitches in sequence. When you encounter a yo stitch, knit it as usual. Finish knitting this entire row. Once completed, row 4 is now done. Next, everyone refer to the chart. Keep going until you finished row 6. Now let's work on row 7. Start with 5 knit stitches. Then work 1 yo stitch. Next, work 1 s-tukpo. Slip the first 2 stitches on the left side without knitting them. Then knit 1 stitch. Use the left needle to pick up the 2 slipped stitches. Pass them over the knitted stitch and slip it off. That completes the s-tukpo stitch. Finally, work another yo stitch. Continue following the chart to finish this row. Once done, row 7 will be completed. Next, everyone refer to the pattern. Finish the remaining rows. After completing half of it, check the dimension against the chart. When everything is done, Knit the last row and bind off the stitches. That concludes motif 4. Moving on, please proceed with motif 4 on your own. Once all the required color quantities are completed, that concludes our discussion of motif 4. Now let's move on to learning how to knit motif 5. Start with a foundation chain while referring to the chart. After completing the starting chain, work back and forth. During the process, you'll need to change colors and weave in threads. Below, I will demonstrate the technique. Refer to the diagram. First, complete the first 2 rows. Then, proceed to work on row 3. Start with 3 knit stitches. Then, it's time to switch colors. Take the corresponding color yarn. We'll call this yarn color 2. The previous yarn will be called color 1. Make a slip knot with color 2. Insert the hook into the first stitch on the left side. Pick up this loop. Complete this stitch. Next, work 7 knit stitches using color 1. After knitting 3/4 stitches, bring color 2 along. Place color 2 above color 1. Be mindful not to pull the yarn too tight, so the fabric doesn't pucker. This way, color 2 is trapped once. After completing the 7 knit stitches, knit 1 stitch with color 2. Remember, don't pull the yarn too tight. Continue repeating this process. Finish this row. After completing it, the 3rd row is done. Now let's start the 4th row. First, knit 3 purl stitches with color 1. Then knit 1 purl stitch with color 2. Next, knit 7 purl stitches with color 1. Similarly, after knitting 3/4 stitches, trap color 2. Continue referring to the pattern, and complete this row. After completing it, the 4th row is done. Next, everyone refer to the chart, and finish the remaining rows. Later, for the corresponding rows, you will need to join color 3 for knitting. The method for joining color 3 is identical to that of color 2. When knitting more than 5 stitches continuously in the following rows, always use this method to carry and trap the yarn. After finishing the 12th row, cut off color 2 and color 3. Then weave in the ends. Then simply rejoin the yarn and continue knitting. After everything is finished, bind off by working the knit and purl stitches. That concludes motif 5. Next, everyone should knit all of motif 5, making sure to complete the required color schemes and quantities. With that, we've covered motif 5, and now all motifs have been explained. After finishing all the motifs, refer to the motif joining diagram, arrange the motifs properly, mind the direction of the motifs so they don't go wrong. When sewing, you can first sew the motifs together horizontally. Then sew them vertically. When sewing horizontally, the ending position will always align with the starting point. The ending position involves picking up each column of chains and inserting. The starting position may involve working on purl stitches or crossing stitches if needed. If it's unclear, you can simply pick up and insert about 2 strands of yarn. When working with motifs that have different stitch counts, you can pick up 2 stitches from the motif with more stitches. And sew them to 1 stitch on the motif with fewer stitches. For vertical sewing, always pick up the carrying yarn along the edges. When encountering a purl stitch position, you can pick up a single strand like this for sewing. When working with motifs that have different row counts, similarly pick up 2 stitches from the motif with more rows, and sew it to 1 stitch on the motif with fewer rows. Pay attention when sewing vertically. If you encounter the corner position of 4 motifs, and if the hole is large, you can sew 2 additional stitches, until there's no noticeable hole left. The sewing method here. You can refer to the finished product below. I'll provide a sewing method for everyone. Learn the method first, and then proceed with sewing. Both stitches are in the bound-off state. The commonly used invisible sewing method can be applied. You can leave a long yarn tail on one of the fabric pieces at the end. Thread the yarn tail through the needle. Position it at the back. And pull out the needle from the piece closest to you that doesn't have the yarn tail. That is, pull the needle out from the middle of the edge stitch. Then, each time, go through the front fabric piece. Pick up the reversed braid. From the back fabric piece, pick up the inverted V shape. After sewing a few stitches, you can take a look. The sewing position forms a braid-like texture. If you tighten it, it becomes an invisible seam. The sewing marks won't be visible. You can decide whether to tighten it based on your preference. I'll continue sewing this part until it's done. And that's how you sew it together. Next, let's learn how to connect rows. We usually use the invisible seam method as well. When sewing, pick up the horizontal strands along the edges. Let's first get familiar with the fabric piece. Start by finding the first stitch on the edge. There are typically 4 cases for the first edge stitch. The first case is a slip stitch. This means picking up along the texture without knitting, forming a large braid. The second case is also a slip stitch. But when slipping the stitch, it goes against the texture below, creating a knot like this. The third case involves knitting every row, usually knitting on the right side, and purling on the wrong side, forming small braids like these. The fourth case also involves knitting every row, usually working knit stitches on both the right and wrong sides. This creates a ridged stitch pattern. The first stitch on the left becomes the second stitch. For example, this fabric piece, when viewed from this side, shows the second stitch as a knit texture. When viewed from the other side, the second stitch appears as a purl texture. Regardless of whether the second stitch shows a knit texture or a purl texture, you can see that the loops are all facing forward. These loops that are flipped over with the horizontal line below represent the horizontal carrying yarn between stitches. It's the same on this side as well. This here is the flipped loop. And this line here is the horizontal strand between the 2 stitches. The edge stitch for the ridged pattern works the same way. This is the second stitch. This column here is the second stitch. The forward-facing loop. Between these two stitches, there's a reversed loop, and this line here is the horizontal strand between the two stitches. At the edge, it's a slip stitch. Similarly, between these two stitches, there are also horizontal strands. No matter which kind, one carrying strand roughly corresponds to one row. Before sewing, you can hide the yarn tails on the wrong side with a few stitches and secure them with a knot. I'll skip hiding the tails here for demonstration purposes. Invisible sewing involves alternately picking up the horizontal strands along the edges of these two fabric pieces to sew them together. Pick up 1 to 2 strands each time. Note, if the row counts of the two pieces match, you can sew them together correspondingly. This means the number of carrying strands picked up each time will be the same. Always insert the needle where you last pulled out. To pick up the horizontal strand. Here, I'm picking up 1 strand each time. After sewing a few stitches, slightly tighten them. If the row counts of the two pieces are different, but you need to sew the pieces together evenly, you can pick up more strands on the side with more rows, as needed. For example, overall, you pick up 1 strand each time, but on the side with more rows, you can pick up an extra strand at appropriate positions. This helps maintain even tension. Pick up 2 strands. Here, the row counts of the two pieces are identical. I'll continue and finish sewing. This is the method for seamless sewing of rows. That concludes how to sew this way. Next, let's knit the lace trim. Now, let's take a look at the finished product. Along the edges, pick up strands, and work in a counterclockwise circle. The stitch pattern here is single rib. It's a texture of one knit stitch, alternated with one purl stitch. Work in rounds using 3 circular needles. Simply follow the stitch pattern on the chart. At the 4 corners, you need to increase stitches. The method used for increasing is M1BL. Now, let's show. Here, I'll demonstrate with a sample swatch. Join the yarn at the corner of the motif on the top right. Pick up the chain and insert. Pick up the loop. This is the first stitch. The second stitch. If you need to adjust the stitch count, you can pick up 1 stitch between 2 stitches. Or skip 1 stitch and pick up 1 stitch. Repeat this process to pick up the corresponding number of stitches on this motif. After picking up stitches on this motif, follow the same method. Pick up the corresponding number of stitches for the rest of the motifs. When you need to adjust the stitch count, make the adjustments using the same method as before. After picking up the corresponding stitches on the top edge, you'll need to pick up stitches along the side of the motif. When picking up stitches on the side, insert your hook under about 1-2 strands of yarn. Continue following this method and pick up the corresponding number of stitches along each motif's side edge. Once done, move on to the bottom edge. Continue picking up the corresponding number of stitches. Pay attention, there may be more loops on the knitting needle. Make sure they don't slip off. You can use another knitting needle here to pick up stitches if needed. The bottom edge consists of starting chain positions. You can see the starting chain positions, which look like rows of chains. Insert your hook into the center of the chain to pick up stitches. For unclear areas, you can roughly insert the hook. Just pick up the corresponding number of stitches. When you reach the other side, pick up stitches in the same way. Complete the stitch picking process. After all stitches are picked up, the picking is done. The first round is also completed. Now start working on the second round. Take out the third needle. For this round, alternate between two colors while knitting. The previous yarn is called color 1. Start with 1 knit stitch. Mark the first stitch. Then take out the corresponding color of yarn, which is called color 2. Tie a knot with color 1. Use color 2 to make 1 purl stitch. Then use color 1 to make 1 knit stitch. Use color 2 to make 1 purl stitch. Continue alternating between color 1 and color 2. Alternate between knit and purl stitches. Complete this round. When you reach the junction of the two needles later, make sure to pull the yarn tight. After finishing, the second round is completed. Now let's move on to the third round. Start with 1 knit stitch. Place a stitch marker as a mark. Then continue with color 1 and make a M1BL. Place your right index finger above the yarn. Yarn over. Place it onto the right needle. That completes 1 M1BL. Then continue alternating purl and knit stitches. Knit until you reach the middle stitch of the left corner position, just before knitting it. When you get to the corresponding position, start with a M1BL first. Then place a marker as a mark. Knit 1 more stitch. Mark the stitch. Then knit another M1BL. The stitch between the stitch markers will be the middle stitch of the corner. Both sides should have a M1BL. Next, continue with this technique. Finish knitting this circle. When you reach the middle stitch on the next corner, perform the increases in the same way, and make sure to mark it properly. After completing the last M1BL, place another stitch marker. This will be the first stitch. On either side, do a M1BL. You can transfer these two stitches to one straight needle, so the stitch marker won't fall off during knitting later. That completes the third round. Next, everyone refer to the pattern chart, and finish all the remaining rounds. The marked one is round 2. When counting rounds later, count up from the marked position. During the following knitting, increases will also be made on either side of the stitch marker. Pay attention to color changes during the knitting process. After knitting a few rows, cut off color 2, weave in the ends, then pick up the new yarn and continue knitting. Keep color 1 unchanged. For the last row, knit only with color 1. After everything is finished, perform a single rib stitch bind off. Here's how to do the single rib stitch bind off method. Study the method before you start knitting. Once everything is completed, perform the single rib stitch bind off. Start by knitting 2 stitches in the opposite texture of what's below. In this case, the first stitch below is a braid. The second stitch below is a horizontal line. So first, knit 1 purl stitch, then knit 1 knit stitch. Then pass the first stitch over the second stitch. This will bind off 1 stitch. Continue by knitting 1 stitch in the opposite texture of what's below. Here it is a braid, so you should knit 1 purl stitch. Before knitting, use your left hand to pinch the bottom of the loop on the right needle. Remove the needle. Place it underneath the yarn, and reinsert it back into the loop. Then knit the purl stitch. Pass the first stitch over the second stitch again. This will bind off another stitch. Continue by knitting 1 stitch in the opposite texture of what's below. Here it is a horizontal line, so you should knit 1 knit stitch. Before knitting, remove the needle, place it above the yarn, and reinsert it back into the loop. Knit 1 knit stitch. Pass the first stitch over the second stitch again. This will bind off another stitch. Every time, you need to knit a stitch in the opposite texture of what's below, and before knitting, you must move the right needle to change the position of the yarn. When purling, the yarn stays on top. When knitting, the yarn stays below. Let's continue binding them off. When only 1 loop remains, leave the yarn tail slightly longer. Secure the loop. You can use this yarn tail later to sew the beginning and ending together. Make sure there are no noticeable notches. That's how you complete the single rib bind off. Finally, secure the lining on the wrong side of the blanket. Before securing, you need to wash and iron the lining fabric from the kit. This will prepare it for attachment. Wash away the excess dye, and pre-shrink it as well. Then, on the wrong side of the blanket, iron the blanket to set its shape. Finish this step before sewing everything together. I'll use a small sample to demonstrate the securing method. Lay the blanket with the wrong side facing up. The seams between the blanket pieces should be placed horizontally. Place the lining fabric flat on top of the blanket. The lining should completely cover the entire blanket. For larger blankets, to make sewing more convenient, you can use pins to secure the lining to the blanket first. If you don't have pins, you can use safety pins as an alternative. In practice, make sure to choose more positions to secure everything in place. After securing, trim the excess lining first. There are no specific requirements for trimming, just ensure the edges of the lining extend at least 3 centimeters beyond the first round of the lace trim. Next, sew together the connection points between each column of motifs on the lining fabric and the blanket. Finally, secure it to the lace edge. Use a backstitch method to fix the middle section. Start by folding the lining along the edge of the lace trim, matching up the horizontal sides. This will tuck the lining's edge, so that it is roughly level with the first round of the lace trim. The kit includes sewing thread. Cut a piece of thread about 1 meter long. The length here can be random. Thread the needle. Tie a knot underneath. Start by sewing from the top. Insert the needle into any column of motifs. At the sewing position, close to the lace edge. Insert the needle at the sewing position. Pull out a part of the yarn tail. Insert through the loop left by the yarn tail. Slightly tighten. Fold the lining fabric edge neatly. The yarn tail is now secured onto the blanket. Next, pull through from the corresponding position on the lining. Just to the right of this insertion point. Insert the needle about 0.5 centimeters away. Pick up the seam of the fabric piece. Come out on the left side, approximately 2 centimeters apart from the insertion point. Pay attention not to prick your hands with the pins while sewing. Make sure the sewing needle does not pull the yarn through to the front side of the blanket, otherwise, it will affect the appearance of the blanket. Slightly tighten. Continue from the right side of the insertion position. Insert the needle at a position about 0.5 centimeters away. Pick up the sewing line of the fabric piece at the previous insertion point. Come out at a position about 2 centimeters away. Repeat this process to sew all the seams of this fabric piece. While sewing, pay attention. The lining should be laid flat on top of the main part. Adjust the position as you sew, to prevent sewing crooked. If the yarn tail isn't long enough, follow the method demonstrated earlier, and insert the yarn tail from the wrong side. Tie a double knot to secure the yarn tail with the end of the new yarn. Continue sewing the rest. When you reach the left side near the lace trim, fold the lining fabric edge inward in the same way. Then sew it down. Finally, bring the needle to the wrong side. Pick up a loop on the blanket, and tie a knot several times to secure it. Cut off the excess. This way, one seam of the blanket is securely attached to the lining fabric. Following this method, sew the remaining sections of the fabric pieces, and secure them to the lining fabric. I'll stop the demonstration here. After securing the middle part, attach the edges of the lining to the lace trim. Cut a length of sewing thread, and thread the needle. Tie a knot at the end of the yarn. I've already done this here. Start by sewing the horizontal edge. Align the edge of the lining with the first round of the lace trim, roughly. Insert the needle from the edge of the lining. Pass it through the reserved yarn loop. Slightly tighten. Here, we use the whip stitch method. Pass the needle through the remaining loop, after picking up stitches on the fabric piece. Continue to insert it into the corresponding position of the lining edge. Slightly tighten. Leave a little distance. Insert the needle through the remaining loops from the picked up stitches on the fabric piece and the corresponding position of the lining edge. Slightly tighten. Repeat this process. Continue sewing until you finish the rest of this edge. Adjust the position while sewing. To prevent sewing crooked, before reaching the corner position, take the next edge and fold the lining edge inward neatly. Align the corner position. Then pick up the stitches on the fabric piece and sew it together with the folded lining. Ensure the corner is sewn evenly and lies flat. Continue following this method, and finish sewing the entire round. After completing, you can use the base of the lace trim to secure the yarn tails. This is the method for fixing the lining fabric. To make the blanket flatter, you can iron it again on the back side of the blanket. This will help set its shape. Up to this point, the entire tutorial for this blanket is complete. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website. Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thanks for watching everyone. See you in the next episode.